Good evening. Good evening once again. I'm glad to be with you again today. As I had promised, today we are going to look at, are you an in-law or an outlaw? In-law or outlaw? There is a reason as to why the relationships by marriage were called in-law. People have tried to romanticize these relationships by saying in love. And these are the relationships that are very problematic. What if I told you that some of the problems encountered in in-law relationships are largely avoidable? There is an elder in a certain church. He's late now. His son was newly married. Then he died in a road accident. During the funeral, he did something that left a lot of people surprised in a good way, and he proved to be a true Christian. So it was a big wedding, and of course dowry had been paid as usual, and he came from a community that has the traditional cultural belief of widow inheritance. However, on the day of the funeral, he told the daughter-in-law publicly that I release you. Yes, he told her, I release you. He's an elder that I considered a true Christian. Came from that community, but he said, my daughter, you've been married for, I think it was a year or so. They didn't have a child. Said, I just want to declare today that you're released. Go your way and get married. And that is the mark of a true Christian. I don't know how many of us would have done the same. You don't need to answer the question. Today, as we look at in-law or outlaw, we will look at the most problematic in-law relationships recorded. And that is the relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Of course, if we had time, we'd talk about the other aspects of father-in-law and what, but we will look at the most problematic. And the Bible has a positive story on mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. I also have one or two questions from yesterday that I will seek to answer at the end of this. I'm just saying so that I don't forget. Let's turn our Bibles to the book of Ruth. We know I believe we know this book. It's a very short book. Only, I think, 3 chapters. Are they 3 or 4? 4 chapters. You can actually just sit down and read the entire book of Ruth if you have not read. And we are going to read from Ruth chapter 1, verse 16. Before we read, let's pray. Father, in Jesus' name, use me for your honor and your glory. Pray this believing and trusting in your mighty name. Amen. The Bible says, Ruth chapter 1, verse 16, and Ruth said, entreat me not to leave you or to return from following after you. For where you go, I will go. And where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more so also, if anything but death parts you and me. Let me add verse 18. When she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, then she ceased speaking. We know the story of Elimelech and the family. There was famine, and they went to Bethlehem, Judah. Elimelech died, and his 2 sons died. They were married to Moabitess women, Ruth and Orpah. When Naomi heard that the famine had ended, she was going back to Israel, and she asked the daughter-in-laws to leave, because now they were free because they were young and their husbands had died. Orpah chose to go, but Ruth is the one telling the mother-in-law, entreat me not to leave you or to return from following after you. People have used this scripture as a marriage vow, but you know it's very important to understand the context. The context here is not about marriage. It's about a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law. And it's the God of a mother-in-law that she had experienced, because the Moabites were bitter enemies of the Israelites. I think you may remember the story of Balaam, whose donkey spoke back to him because he had been sent by the king Barak to curse the Israelites. So they were bitter enemies. And yet, by her living with Naomi, she experienced the true God of Israel. And that's why she said, where you die, I will die. There I will be buried. The Lord do so to me. And more also, if anything but death parts you and me. People meet someone on the street, and they start dedicating that song, where you go, I will go. Where you die, I will die. People you don't even know, strangers. So please do not misuse this context. It was of a God she had experienced. It was a promise her daughter-in-law made to a widowed mother-in-law. I just want to share with you a few reflections before I give us some rules of engagement that I have gleaned over time when it comes to in-law relationships. Can be applied across the board, but specifically today I'm looking at mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. As I said, this was a promise Ruth made to Naomi. And I just want to say this promise had more to do with Naomi than with Ruth. Because if Ruth had not experienced the true God of Naomi, she would definitely not have made this promise. The responsibility to have an amicable relationship usually lies on the older party. If you have a strained relationship between the older and the younger, responsibility lies with the older. You know why? Because the older has the power, they have the networks, they have the resources, they have the wisdom. So if a relationship between parent and child is strained, there is a heavier responsibility on the parent. If a relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law is strained, there is a heavier responsibility on the mother-in-law, because the mother-in-law holds the power in that relationship. When we look at this book, we see Naomi seeking the good of her daughter-in-laws. She was lonely because she had lost her sons and her husband. And yet she seeks after the good of the daughter-in-laws by telling them to go and to remarry. Can you imagine? She didn't say, please stay with me. I'm going to be very lonely on the long journey back home. Stay with me. She just released them to go to their people. She didn't try to even coerce them, to go with her. So she sought after their good. Okay? And later on we see Naomi actually encouraging Ruth in Ruth chapter 3 verse 3, aoge na arudi soko. You think that it is the Gen Zs or whoever who have invented this kuoga na kurudi soko. Naomi actually encouraged Ruth aoge na arudi soko. Look at chapter 3 verse 3, we read this. Wash yourself therefore. Wash ni kufanya nini? Sini kuoga. Anoint yourself. Put your best clothes upon you and get down to the floor. Alimwambia aoge na arudi soko. Imagine a mother-in-law telling her aoge arudi soko. So when she went and she got a child, Naomi helped nursed that child, Obed. And anyway, long story short, in the genealogy of Jesus, Ruth is mentioned despite being a Moabitess. We don't know what happened to Orpah. And yet I want to say that her choice was also okay. She didn't do anything wrong because as a widow, she had every right to go back to her people and remarry. Sometimes when we talk about this, we want to paint Orpah as the one who made the wrong choice. No, it was okay. She made her choice. Ruth made her choice. And so the story is told of Ruth. We don't know about Orpah. Let me say that our families are incubators. They are meant to hatch us, to help us individuate. Then we fly out of the nest. That's what somebody was asking yesterday about some people who are so enmeshed with their families that everything is about their parents. Families are incubators. We hatch in the family, we individuate, we become individuals, and we fly out of the nest. And so we get married. For ladies, of course, culturally speaking, you leave your home, you go, you get a new identity in your marital home. And the Bible admonishes, as we saw on Sabbath, that the men are to leave their parents and cleave to their wives, and the two shall be one flesh. So the two people will form a unit. And I know that some of us, especially in the African context, some of these things are very difficult to imagine because some families live within the same compound, and sometimes you hear them quarreling even over cockroaches. They're asking, this cockroach is so fat. It looks like it came from your house. Because you're the one who eats food that has a lot of fat, People quarrel over things, over chicken that are crisscrossing. So I will share with you about 10 rules of engagement that I have gleaned some of them through the mistakes that I have made, some of them through my study, some of them through the interactions that I have had with my clients and people who have graciously shared their testimonies with me. So how, as a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law, how do you have a respectful relationship so that then you are an in-law, you are not an outlaw? The first one, don't encourage your son and his wife to stay under the same roof with you. It is their problem to find a separate home. The more the distance between you and your children's families, the better the relationship. There's a lady last year who told me she was looking for a house. And why was she looking for a house? Because she had a 4-bedroomed house and 3 sons. She had separated with her husband, so each of her sons had their bedroom and her. So she said, I'm looking for a smaller house to move. So I said, why? She's young because her firstborn son is 21. I asked why. She said, my 20-year-old son wants to marry. He has a girlfriend, so I have to move out of the house and leave him with the brothers in that 4-bedroom house because culturally I can't sleep under the same roof with my son and the wife, so I'm looking for a house to move. What kind of insanity is that? The mother is moving to leave the house for the son, who is 20, a university student, to marry. Of course, you don't need to have a degree in psychology to know that people are going to cry, not very long from now. And what is interesting, as we will see later, patterns replaying because the same mother got this child when she was a university student. And now, 20 years later, she's separated, divorced with the husband. Maybe, of course, the cracks appeared early, but by the time they are divorced, it's that age. And without knowing, she's encouraging the son to go through the same path that she's paying school fees for him, feeding him. She's leaving for him a house that she has bought and looking for another one for him to marry. And of course, the message being sent to the younger sons who are 18 and 14, by the time you get to this age, you also marry. The parents will get a house for you. So please, we said on Saturday, we said that we need to, children should not be encouraged to marry. And for as long as somebody is depending on the parents, even if they are 48, they are children. And you know, we can learn a lot from some of our cultures. Do you know that in my culture, in the Kisii culture, there is just no way you can find a son who is healthy, who is well, living under the same roof with the parents and he's married. If you find one like that, that one is not okay. In fact, there is a lady who contacted me and she told me, let me say this for context, she told me she's a Luo and she told me that I have a boyfriend, I want to get married to him, we love each other. I said, okay, tell me more about him. She said, but there's one problem. I asked, what is it? She said, he's a Kisii. I said, is that the problem? She said, no, the elders in my church who are Luos are telling me I should not marry a Kisii. I said, only that? She said, yes, I've been told as a Luo I should not marry a Kisii. I said, tell me about him. She said, I'm 42, he's 38. Well, that didn't seem like a big problem, although it could be, but I said, tell me more. She said he was married and divorced with 2 children. I said, where are the children? They are staying with their mother. Is he taking care of those children? So don't make it a theological issue about whether as a divorcee you should remarry. I'm going somewhere. I'm not addressing that part for now. So I said, is he supporting the children? He said, the parents are paying school fees for those children. So I said, where does he stay? She said he stays with the parents. 38, divorced, he stays with the parents. The 2 children stay with their mother, and his parents are paying school fees. I said, listen to me now. Listen to me and listen very carefully. There is no healthy Kisii man married and divorced at 38 who lives with the parents. That does not happen. I'm telling you, it doesn't. Tola, just by virtue of that alone, that person is not okay. So I said, please never ever waste my airtime telling me about that person. She said, is that so? I said, go look, even those in Texas, Minnesota. That does not happen. No, there are things that just don't happen. I said, it cannot happen. That person is not well. They need help. It is like you're getting a patient from ICU and marrying them. How fair is that? They need treatment. You're marrying a patient. They need treatment. They are not okay. They are not well. So I told her, for me, there are many red flags in this relationship, but I won't talk about the divorce. I don't want to talk about many things about the tribe, but for me, just the fact that he's living with the parents at 38, the parents are paying school fees for his children, because for whatever reason that is, and you expect him to take care of you if he can't take care of his own flesh and blood? I said, no. I do not ever want to discuss this again with you. Fortunately, she ended the relationship. So as a parent, you don't encourage your son regardless of what you will say. Oh, but my son has impregnated a girl and the girl has a child. Let the girl stay with the parent. Let the child be taken care of. They don't have to move in together because they have a child. The girl was somewhere, wasn't she? She will stay somewhere. The child will be taken care of. But if you try to cut corners by bringing them to live with you, it does not take long. Number 2, treat your son's wife as his wife, not as your daughter, maybe as a friend. It's only her mother who is qualified to scold her. She does not have your blood. She does not have your DNA. So she can be your friend, but not your daughter. It is only her mother or her parent who is qualified to scold her, not you. Let me go further. So your daughter-in-law's habit or character is not your problem. It is your son's problem. He's an adult. He can deal with it. If your daughter-in-law is cooking for your son Indomie and you used to cook for him ugali, maybe it's time he started eating Indomie. Let him eat. Because that is his choice and he's an adult, he can communicate. There are mothers who cook for their sons a plate of food. I'm not exaggerating, I know this. So they send a plate of food every day to the son's house. And they say, my son, I know you don't even get this mokimo, this ugali. Give my son food. And in that house, the son is there with the wife and the house help and a child. But the mother sends one plate of food. Do you really expect that marriage to be peaceful? Whatever character your daughter-in-law has is not your problem. It is the problem of your son. Let me go further. Even when they are living together, maybe they have come to visit you. You don't do their laundry, you don't cook for them, you don't babysit for them, unless they have specially requested you. And you have no expectation. You do it without expecting to be repaid. And unless they have asked you. I told one lady this, and she said, for sure, my daughter has been calling me to pick her child from school, and I didn't want to do it, but I kept doing. I said, what's the worst that can happen if you said no? And I said, what if you went to visit your other children far away for a month? What will your daughter do? She will find a way of picking the child. So the daughter told her after some time, Mom, can you do this? She said, no, I'm busy. And the daughter found a way of having the child picked. Maybe that is even a way of family planning, because she will now know that children come with responsibility. Okay? So unless they have asked you, don't assign or appoint yourself the role of cooking for them, babysitting, and then you become resentful. They need to have requested because they are adults, and when you do it, have no expectation. Don't expect to be repaid in whichever way. Number 5, pretend to be deaf and blind when your son and his wife are quarreling. Hear no evil, see no evil. I know that as a mother especially, I would be very biased if there was any issue that is brought between my son and his wife. You know why? I know my son. Me, I don't know the wife. So I will be very biased. I'll say, my son really has done this? I don't think so. And even if he did, let's pray and fast for him. But I don't know if the same complaint was brought for my daughter-in-law, I would say the same thing. I'll say, let her go back and have her parents train her. Seems like they didn't train. What I'm saying is that as human beings, we definitely have a bias towards our flesh and blood. So if your children are having issues, encourage them to get an independent third party to mediate, because you're not qualified. You're subjective. You're subjective because you're emotionally invested, you have an interest. And you're definitely in favor of the marriage, which is a good thing. But sometimes we have had cases where parents-in-laws have encouraged their daughter-in-law to stay, the daughter-in-law gets killed. And she even says, or the son gets killed, whichever. The worst, of course, it can be. And she says, I was going to live there. The ones I'm staying here because of them, okay? Get an independent third party to help them. Resist the urge to be the mediator. Number 6, Your grandchildren belong to your son and his wife. However they want to raise them, it is up to them. It is not your responsibility. You raised your own children. If they are buying for them lollipop and you feel they need to buy for them apples, unless somebody has asked you for your advice, please let them raise their own children. Otherwise, if you raised your son or your daughter very well, by now they would know that children should eat apples instead of lollipops. But if that is what they have chosen and they're adult, please step aside because you raised your own children, okay? The other one, number 7, is your son's wife does not need to serve you. It is your son's duty to serve you. You ought to have taught your son to be a better person so that you and your daughter-in-law's relationship could be better. Somebody wrote on Facebook, another man wrote on Facebook, he said, it is so good to be a man and to have a wife. Because when you don't give your family money, your wife is blamed. When she gives her people money, you are the one who is praised. So he said, it's so nice. I just love being a husband and having a wife because she will be blamed for my shortcomings and I will be praised for her, for whatever, for her virtues. Can you imagine? I just laughed, but I thought this is very true. Okay? So it is the responsibility of your son. I know many times people would blame wives, especially, saying, the children are not connected to the father's side. Yesterday, when we looked at the mother wound, we did realize that a mother is the most important figure of attachment for any child. But I also want to say that it is the responsibility of whichever parent to help the children connect to their side of the family. Of course, a mother can play a negative role in recruiting the children. But I'm just saying, in a healthy relationship, each parent has an opportunity. They have a responsibility to help their children connect to their side because they're the ones who know their people well. Okay, number 8, do more planning for your own retirement and don't rely on your children to take care of your retirement. I know there are a lot of us who are supporting our parents in their retirement because of the circumstances. I know that I'm taking care of my mother. But one thing I have told myself, I am doing my best by God's grace so that my children don't have to feel that they have a responsibility to take care of me. Of course, I know life happens and there are situations that are unexpected. But I'm talking about ordinarily when parents get more children. They keep getting children and they say these older ones will take care of the younger ones. And the parent leave their retirement totally. They don't save for retirement. They leave it to their children. It's a heavy responsibility. And with the tough economic times, this is putting a lot of strain in families. So as a parent who is listening to me today, I want to urge you to work hard and save for your own retirement. The Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, not the other way around. Okay? Number 9, it is your responsibility to enjoy your retirement years. Don't allow your wealth to be worthless to you. You don't have to apologize when you are enjoying your retirement. Go on a holiday. Go on a road trip. I was speaking to my mother recently, I think a week or 2 ago. I love my mother so much. And when we were talking, I wanted to talk to my brother who lives with her. Then my mother says he has gone to buy soap. I said, please, Mommy, why do you have to? It's not soap. Why I told her that it was on a Friday. And on a Thursday, I had spoken to her. She was in Kisii Town. She does some business there. So I said, you went to Kisii Town, you left supermarkets. Now today is Friday. He's going to the kiosk to buy you soap. Why can't you just be honest about what he's going to buy? She said, yeah, I forgot to buy soap. I said, no, don't play me. Just tell me he has gone to buy for you meat. My mother is not an Adventist, so don't start talking about health reform. So I said, why don't you just say he's going to buy for you meat? Then she says, he has gone to buy some little goat meat. I said, it doesn't have to be little. You have every right to eat a whole goat. In fact, I can make arrangements to get a whole goat, eat everything plus the tail. You can eat the entire goat by yourself. You have earned it, you deserve it. I was just illustrating to tell her, you don't need to apologize, you don't need to lie to me or to hide the truth and tell me it is soap because you think I will see that you have money, so I won't send. I'll still send you money. If you want to eat the whole goat, you eat it. And she laughed. And I think she felt it very liberating. I said, no, you have you have earned it. You have earned the right to enjoy your golden years. So as a parent, you don't need to apologize. You don't need to explain to anybody. You have a right to enjoy your retirement years. Of course, you are enjoying as an Adventist, okay? So don't say I'm telling you to squander. But I'm just saying wisely take care of yourself. Don't act or pretend or be in a state of suffering so that your children can have pity on you. The last one I want to share for now is grandchildren. I think I alluded to that. They are a precious gift to their parents. So the primary responsibility of nurturing, disciplining, and guiding your grandchildren is the responsibility of your children. And I will share a quote from Ellen G. White, Child Guidance, page 288, because I know some of these things sound very problematic and they are just not so familiar to us. And Ellen White says, it is proverbial that grandparents, as a rule, are unfit to bring up their grandchildren. Men and women should pay all the respect and deference due to their parents. But in the matter of management of their own children, they should allow no interference but hold the reins of government in their own hands. That is Child Guidance, page 288, where Ellen White is admonishing us that as parents, you need to honor your parents. However, when it comes to matters of discipline for your own children, you need to hold the reins of government. One of the questions that I have been asked sometimes is, what if my child, my daughter maybe in this case, has got a child out of wedlock? Do you mean to say that I shouldn't take care of the child? Of course you do, because these are desperate times. They call for desperate measures. But you need to make it very clear that it's your responsibility. How do you make it clear that it's her responsibility? Your daughter has to step aside, whatever she's doing, whether she's in school or college, for 1 year minimum to breastfeed and raise that child. You will provide support, you give her food, shelter, clothing, but she must nurture her child at least for a year or two. You know why? Because if the child lacks that connection in the early years with the mother, later on you're going to be raising a great-grandchild. Because this child will not have a healthy attachment with the mother, and as a teenager, they are going to seek love outside, and they will also engage in teenage sex. They become teenage mothers. You might have seen families, multi-generational families where a lady was raising, the daughter got a child, she started raising the grandchild, the daughter went back to school. A few years later, this grandchild got a child. The cycle continues. I was in one of the health facilities. A 28-year-old lady came with a baby, a newborn baby. So the baby was crying and she wasn't breastfeeding. I said, breastfeed the child. She was 28. I was much older than 28. Then she told me, no, this is my grandchild. I asked, but how old are you? She said, I'm 28. This is my grandchild. I said, how? She said, I got my daughter at 14. And now my daughter is now 14. She got this child. She's very young. She had got the child through cesarean section. So the mother brought the child for vaccination. And it's not surprising that by the time she's 42, she's going to be a great-grandmother, if she lives to that age. Because again, it's very difficult. Such circumstances are very difficult. So what I'm saying, I hope you understand where I'm coming from. And of course, that is the right thing to do. That you will support your daughter, but ensure that she breastfeeds and nurtures the child, wakes up to the child for 1 year or 2 years, then she can continue with her studies. You will say she's losing time. There's a back-to-school policy. She will lose 1 or 2 years, but you will break a pattern of teenage pregnancies. If you choose not to pay the price now, you're going to pay it later, and the premiums are going to be too high for you to pay. So you need to always consider closing the tap. And also what you're teaching your daughter, I know she's a child in this case. I hope Of course, I hope this is very hypothetical. Let me talk about maybe she got a child at 18, because I don't want to talk about a child having a child. But you're also teaching her that choices have consequences. I know parents who have conducted abortions on their children at 14. One girl told me that. The first abortion was at 14 by the mother. 16, she aborted by herself. 18, she did. 21, she did. So by the time the mom doesn't know about these other ones, and none of the family members know that she has conducted 4 abortions, because that first one at 14, the mom did it in the dark, took her somewhere and said, I'll never tell anybody. She never learned choices have consequences. Later, she got married. In her marriage, when things became a bit tough, she got into extramarital affairs, because she never learned that self-discipline, delayed gratification, choices have consequences. What she learned is when things get tough, you have to look for a way of coping. So one of the things I remember she was saying is, I wish my mother let me even get that child at 14, maybe give the child up for adoption. Because it was never talked about, she never learned any lesson, she just continued, escaping her reality. So that was the response I wanted to give that. I'm not saying that you throw away your daughter when she has got a child. You can support, but you can also help them to learn skills, okay? Let me also read another quote by Ellen G. White from Child Guidance regarding families living together. This is what she says. It's not the best policy for children of 1, 2, or 3 families that are connected by marriage to settle within a few miles of one another. The influence is not good on the parties. The business of one is the business of all. The perplexities and troubles which every family must experience, more or less, and which as far as possible should be confined within the limits of the family circle, are extended to family connections, and they have a bearing upon the religious experience. So when families that are connected together by marriage, when they stay together within a few miles, you will get that they influence each other negatively, and this will even have an effect on the religious experience. Families connected by marriage. Let me talk a little bit on the daughter-in-law. We said today I will look at the most problematic relationship, daughter-in-law and mother-in-law essentially, although the lessons can apply for any other in-law relationship. And we have said the story of Ruth and Naomi gives us a beautiful example that mother-in-law and daughter-in-law can be in a loving relationship, okay? As a daughter-in-law, I want to say this. You come into a family that is a whole system. Somebody said, fully assembled, batteries in place. So do not think that you're coming into this family to dismantle things and to teach them the right way to go about their affairs. Please, the family system was functioning before you. So do not ever forget and think you have heard the Macedonian cry or call, and you are going to Macedonia to save them. Please save yourself by God's grace. Yeah? So you are not coming to dismantle the family system. It was already operational. Don't think you will give them your own fresh ideas baked from the oven. Unless you have been asked, don't give advice, okay? Unless people have asked you for advice directly. If you are not in a WhatsApp group, don't ask to be included. People of the same mother need to have their own WhatsApp group. In my family, we have a WhatsApp group from the people of the same mother, because when we are discussing our stories from 1985, please, we understand what happened. We don't want questions, because some things are very shameful. There are things we have gone through that maybe they are shameful or whatever, so we want to talk about them. So please, you can be in another group, but don't insist, now I've come to this family, you have to add me to the group. Well and good if you've been added to another one. But don't insist that you have to be added to every group. What are you discussing if I'm not here? Please, before you came, we were existing, surviving, thriving. So do not think you're the one who is coming to change the family system. Have no opinion over somebody's mother, father, brother, sister, niece, nephew. You have no opinion. Unless you've been asked to give your advice, do not think you're the one who is coming to straighten people. Okay? Because people have operated the way they have operated. Otherwise, you have no opinion over them. But if you are asked, that's okay. But don't come, you think, when you're panga sasa kila mtu. Jipange. Okay? Now, the other one that I would like to say is, allow children to connect, to spend time with their paternal side. Children belong to you as much as they belong to their father. So please do not withhold your children from visiting their grandparents. Some daughter-in-laws tell me that, the mother-in-law is a witch, so the children cannot go to visit. But that witch raised your husband. Let that witch be with the grandchildren. If she didn't kill your husband, so you think she'll kill the children? If she kills them, so be it. After all, pray. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. If you truly believe in God. Why are you keeping the children that she's going to bewitch them? By the way, let me tell you, witchcraft is remote. Witchcraft is by remote. Somebody doesn't even, okay, I'm not a witch, obviously. I think, even in the Bible we have Simeon, who was a witch. Was he called Simeon? Anyway, the thing is this. Witchcraft, demonic power is by remote. So they don't even need to be physically there. Really, if you're saying your mother-in-law is a witch, please let the children go. Don't say, how are they going to sleep in that place? Make the place comfortable for them. Even if it's not comfortable, the children need a wide range of experiences. If they come to your place, they can have tap water. But if they go to their grandmother and fetch water from the river, that is a richness of experience. Let them go to their grandmother, eat whatever they are eating. Let them go and take porridge, drink water. It's okay. They will fast and cleanse their system for a few days. Then they come, they are prepared to appreciate the food that you're giving them. So please, let me talk to any ladies out there, whether the relationship with your children's father is good or not, that is immaterial, it doesn't matter. The children have a right to relate with their parents, their grandparents, because that gives them identity. And the children who have identity, they have anchoring, they have a solid base. And research has shown that they will fare better mentally, emotionally, financially, materially, in many ways. When children are connected, especially to their father's side, they get identity. So please, even if you don't want to go, let the children go. And do not withhold the children. Do not influence them in any way. Maybe your in-laws never accepted you. That's okay. You're not their flesh and blood. But they have accepted the children. Don't say, if you don't love me, then you have no business with my children. They are not just your children. They're also their children. So they have a right to have their children. Let me just say, usilete ujuaji kwa wenyewe. Keep quiet and be told. And listen and follow. Follow how things are going. Follow the system. People's habits don't change, the way people do their things. There's a comfort in the way people do their things. So don't start saying, no, this one you're doing this. No. I can show you. Who asked you? When Ruth was married to Naomi's family, the culture of the kinsman redeemer was not a Moabite culture. But she got into this culture, and because of the love the mother-in-law showed her, she embraced this culture. So please, when you go, take time, just sit down and see how people do their things. If it's not harming you, embrace it and only bring your ideas if you've been asked, and you can give it as a suggestion. People can take it or leave it, but don't think that you're the one who is there to disrupt and dismantle everything. Many ladies think, I have gone to heal the home. You are nobody's savior, and Christ is your only one. You're not going to save nobody, really. So please, let's get over ourselves that we want to dismantle and make these changes. Let me share a few nevers, then I can take any questions or any comments. Let me say this. I will share 5 nevers. Never ever, as a daughter-in-law or as a wife, discuss the faults of your mate with your parents. Never discuss the faults of your husband with your parents, because your parents are subjective. They love you so much, and they will never forget. You will have moved from the accident scene, but your parents will stay. They will remain on the accident scene. Much later, when you have resolved the issues, they will never forget. They will be saying, and that day, and 5 years ago, they did the same thing. So never ever discuss the faults. Am I saying that you keep quiet and suffer in silence? No. If there are things to discuss, there are independent third parties you can talk to. You can talk to a professional who you can hire and fire at will. Okay? So consider discussing with an independent third party, of course, if you're seeking help. The other never is never ever quote your family or hold them up as a model to your mate. There is nothing in agaragaria like your husband, for example, is trying to do something. You say, like my dad. Like my dad. In this case, my dad used to do this. My dad used to take my mom for a walk. If you can, like my dad, we can go for a walk like the way my dad used to go. You can suggest, you can ask to go for a walk without quoting your dad. Because already when you say this, somebody becomes defensive. Because they feel, are you trying to say I'm inadequate? Like my parents, I really appreciate. My parents would do this to each other. If we can do this, you can always ask for your needs to be met without quoting your parents. If maybe there's some advice your parents have given you about buying property, you don't have to come and say, I was speaking to my dad, and he said, the property we wanted to buy in Kahawa Sukari is not a good idea. Can we go and check in Kahawa Bila Sukari? I'm quoting Pastor. Pastor is the one who said Kahawa Bila Sukari. An example I'm just saying. No, you can just say, can we also consider maybe checking some properties in Kahawa Bila Sukari before concluding we are going to Kahawa Sukari? You just say that. You don't have to quote your dad. People can give you advice, but you don't have to quote them. You can always own it and then you share, okay? Never ever threaten to or actually go home to your mother. Never threaten to or actually go home to your mother. As an adult, you have individuated. You have left your home. Please, this thing of packing and going to your parents, stop it. If things are not working and you have considered you want to leave, get your own place and go. And do not keep threatening somebody, I will leave, I will leave. Please pack and leave. You don't have to say anything because it becomes like a threat. I'm not telling people to leave, but I'm just trying to say, do not ever threaten. I'll go to my mother. I'll go to my mother's house. Some men come from work, they find the house swept. Somebody has gone to their mother's house, even when they don't know what has gone wrong. So they have to go back and begin to find out because your mother cannot even accommodate you for long. After a short time, you start quarreling over which sufuria was used to make tea. See, ladies, we have that sufuria for tea, we have the one for ugali, we have the one for this. Me, if I find the sufuria for ugali, you've started making tea with it, I'll remove, pour in the sink, wash the sufuria and keep. It's very serious, matters of sufurias. So the point is you'll start quarreling over sufurias, so you don't go back to your mother once you're married. The other never is never live with your parents after marriage. You can visit your parents for some time, but you don't go to stay with your parents for prolonged periods after marriage. We said marriage is for adults. It's not for children who keep running back home to their parents. The last never I want to share as I end, never take sides with your family if you want to have peace in your marriage. Never, ever take sides with your family because the day you got married, you automatically took the side of your spouse. Some people ask me, but what if I can see that my spouse is wrong? That's okay. But that is your body, that's your flesh and blood. You can see they are wrong, but you don't have to expose them in front of your family. You can go aside, solve your issues, then you come back with a united front. You are allowed, you can tell your spouse, I think that was not wise, but you cannot tell your spouse that was not wise in front of your parents. Men struggle a bit with this. They say, but I can see my wife and my mom are quarreling and my wife is obviously wrong. Yes, she is, but that's your wife. You can talk about it separately, okay? That's why you're one unit, okay? So I think I will pause here and answer one question that was sent to me from yesterday. I know the questioner is listening. As I see, let me see if there's any hand. So I will answer this. A question that was asked to me yesterday. The question goes like this. A man leaves his children. He goes and marries another lady, or he moves in with another lady who has children who are not his bio children. He takes care of those children in everything, but he has left his children, he's not providing for them. Do you understand the question? I'm clear. It's a common pattern. Maybe not common, but it happens. I know many cases like that. So the man leaves his children. He moves with another lady who has children. He's taking full care of these children, but he neglects his own children. So this is the thing. I didn't say it on Saturday, on Sabbath, but I've said it in many places. Allow me to repeat it for the sake of illustration. The natural instinct of a healthy man is to provide, protect, secure. That is the natural instinct of a healthy man. He wants to provide, he wants to protect, he wants to secure the family. That is the instinct that comes. But we have wounded men who have been enabled and babied and wounded for whatever reason. So you will find that these men want to exploit, excavate, extract resources from women. So for example, if as a lady you're having a man who is interested in you, they want to marry you, I've said this many times, then they start borrowing you money. It's a fiancé, it's a boyfriend borrowing you money. Kindly drop that one without any further reference to them. Because will a man need, I'm not talking about a husband, sorry. I'm talking about when they are in the dating game. Because will a man be broke and need money? They will, but they will borrow from Mtala, Mshwari. They will borrow from the bank. They will borrow from their men friends. They will borrow from their family because they were somewhere before they met you. Yeah? So their drive is to protect and take care. So if they borrow you money, especially they borrow and they are not giving, and they are letting you pay all the bills, and they are comfortable coming to crash in your house and take your car, please don't even start saying you're confused. You're confusing yourself. There is no man there. That's a wounded man, okay? So now I was giving context. Let me talk about lady, then I'll go back. The natural instinct of a healthy woman or healthy lady is to nurture and to build, because mothers, women nurture. So if you're having this girl and she's keen on exploiting you, she's even the one who is saying when you go out, she's picking the most expensive meal and buying some things that are unnecessary. Taking juice, dawa, tea. Do you need the three of them? She's taking all of them and you're wondering. Please do not be confused, because the natural instinct of a healthy woman, she'll be telling you, the meal served in this restaurant is a lot. We don't need to order 2 plates. Just order one, we will divide, because the food is a lot, okay? Something like that. She'll say, but we just get yogurt. Half a liter is enough. We can divide. I can't even finish, I'm just saying an example. I know there are people who have good appetite, but I'm just saying, if you see that she has a crusade to demolish everything, you definitely know that's a wounded woman, okay? That's not healthy. I was trying to balance that discussion. So let me go back to our question. This man, you can see he has a level of health because he's providing. And the question you are saying, but he has left his own children. He's providing for this one. So this man is a healthy man to some extent. To that extent of manliness, he can provide. He has demonstrated he can provide, he can take care of these children. We don't know the story behind, because there's always a story, so I will not pretend to know what is happening here. But what I want to say, I see this more of a relationship issue than a parenting issue. That's the way I see it. The man being a parent and taking care of a family, I don't see that as a problem. I see the problem being the relationship that he has with the mother of the children. And sadly, a lot of men don't know how to separate with a lady and take care of the children. They only know that you sleep with a woman and you take care of the children. But they cannot, it's hard for them to conceptualize, I'm not sleeping with this woman and I'm raising her children. The children, many men find it very hard to understand that part, and sometimes they have to be helped to shift their mindset that these are your children and this is the lady. Even if you have no intimate association with her, you can still fully and completely take care of your children. So they associate it like that. If she's not with me, I'm not with her, I'm not with those kids. If I'm not with them, I'm not taking care of them. So that's the way I see it. I know there are intricacies and we don't know the story, but the way I'm seeing it, that is not a parenting issue. It's not about the man not being a parent, but I'm seeing the issue of a relationship issue that probably started a long time ago. Thank you. That's the one I had. I don't know whether there is any other or even any online. Okay, Pastor wants to say something.
I want to say something. It's a question from online. Yesterday, someone asked late after you had finished, and their question was, what happens when a mother does not reveal the father of the child due to a broken relationship? That is the first question. And today's question...
Sorry, Pastor, please repeat it. I've missed some.
What happens when a mother does not reveal the father of the child due to a broken relationship?
He does not reveal.
Yeah, just reading the way it has come. What happens when a mother does not reveal the father of the child due to a broken relationship?
Oh, sorry, I don't know whether I understand the question. Oh, the mother is refusing to disclose.
Yeah.
Oh, I get. So what the issue is, so what should happen to the child? Okay, I get it now.
Then the second one, which is today's question now, says, thank you so much, Daktari, so you can receive the thanksgivings. Then it says, I wish you could talk a bit on brothers-in-law and sisters-in-law who can't give you peace in this time, in this home, and frustrates every effort you make.
Thank you. Allow me to respond to those. I think those are good questions. So the mother may not reveal the identity of the father for many reasons. And I know many cases like that. There could be many reasons. Maybe she was raped. Maybe the father is a relative. I know cases like that. People have got children with cousins, so they don't reveal. In fact, most of the time, I have clients who are older, they are 30s, 40s, they have never known their father. And it leaves a very deep wound. And normally I tell them, I know you want to know your father, but first of all, go through the process of healing so that you don't carry any bitterness towards your mother. Then you prepare yourself psychologically, because when the father is revealed to you, you have to be ready to handle. Because there's a reason why the mother is not revealing. It's the right of the child to know, but there's a reason why the mother is not revealing. So if the person asking is the child, adult child, I want to ask them to take time. And when they are asking for their father, the way they ask it also matters. That they need to say, Mom, I do understand this is very uncomfortable. You may not want me to know, but I just want to tell you I really want to know. Sometimes I've even encouraged people to talk to aunties, uncles, to even talk to the friends of the mothers. And some have gotten to know. So when they get to know, because there is an unfinished business, somebody feels they want to have their identity. So some have come to discover, they have got to know who the father is, and a lot of them tell me, thank you so much for preparing me to know who my father is. Because if I was not prepared, I would have even probably been so broken. Because when they get to discover who the father is, it is a very emotional moment. Some of them actually, they even find the person who is the father is their grandfather. Do you understand what I'm saying? A girl was raped by the father. So this child is her father's child. A girl was raped by the brother. So this child is a child of her brother. I mean, it's complex. We live in a world of sin. So there's always a reason why the mother is not disclosing. I want to ask the person to take time. If they really feel they need to know, they have to be prepared. Because sometimes the knowledge will do them more harm than good. Yeah, it may do them more harm. There's always a reason why it's not being disclosed. Yeah, so it's a journey, it's a process. Then the other question is the brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws who don't give the person peace. That is a problem of the husband in that family. A husband, Ellen White says a husband is a house band. A husband is not a man. A husband is a covering. Is a covering for the wife. So if the wife is in that home and the brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws are not giving them peace, it is totally the responsibility of the husband. He has failed to protect the wife. Because for them to actually think it's okay to come and terrorize the wife, there's a reason as to why they think so. One lady said, true story, the husband works outside the country. She was sleeping in the master bedroom. And her two sister-in-laws were there. They were sleeping in the guest room. The sister-in-laws told her, you cannot be sleeping in such a big bed, a king bed, and us we are sharing a small bed. They called their brother, true story, abroad. They said, how can she be sleeping in a king bed and us we are squeezing in a 4x6 bed? He ordered the wife to vacate the master bedroom for the sisters to sleep there. It sounds laughable, but it's true. Now imagine, she had to move out for the sisters to sleep on the king bed. He said, yeah, my sisters have a point. They are squeezing themselves. I said, first of all, they just need to leave. Why are they there? So the thing is, when the man fails to protect the wife, he leaves the wife exposed to the wolves. So the problem is not the sister-in-law, it's not the daughter-in-law, it's not even the mother or the father. You know, sometimes we blame, we say, oh, my mother-in-law is not giving me peace. No, your mother-in-law has a foothold because your husband has opened and left you exposed. And now you are backing up the wrong tree, okay? Just the same way we are saying that as a daughter-in-law, as a wife, if you expose your husband to your in-law, to your parents, then he is left exposed. Another marriage I know is on the rocks because the father-in-law called the son-in-law, and asked for a loan. Like now, my father calling my husband, what? And telling him, please, I'm building. I need $500,000. And he pressured. The wife didn't know. He's pressuring. You know, there's a reason why these relationships are called in-law. There's a law. Do not romanticize things that were not meant to be romantic by calling them in love. He calls the son-in-law. He put pressure. The son-in-law took a loan and gave him $500,000. In the house, he's not talking. So the wife is wondering, what has happened, my husband? What has happened? He moved out of the bedroom. He's not talking. Of course, he was challenged also with skills of communication. But she's like, what is happening? Then he says, your father pressured me. I just sent him $500,000. And the wife is calling the dad. He said, yeah, I needed the money. How can a father-in-law call a son-in-law asking for money? What do you mean? So the marriage is on the rocks. The husband said, I'll never see you the same way. I don't want any relationship with your family. I said, of course, he also had his challenges. But the point I'm saying is, you cannot expose your partner to the wolves. You have to protect and defend them. And you see, the in-laws know when there's a foothold. But if they know that there you don't get there, like if they're asking, maybe you as the man for something, you say, let me consult my wife and we will get back to you. And some of them will tell you, consult your wife? Why? You need to talk to us. You're like, let me consult my wife, and kindly do not disrespect. You know, so do not disrespect my wife. Or they call you, they start talking about your wife. Some men sit down to discuss their wife's faults with their siblings. If you do that, do you expect them to respect your wife? No, you cannot do that. You can talk about it in counseling, in therapy with your pastor, with somebody, as a way of receiving support, but you cannot talk about your partner in the presence of your siblings, because you are scoring your own goal. This is your flesh and blood. This is your body. Again, let me say, they will never forget. You will leave the accident scene, but people will remain stuck there looking at the dried blood. And they will keep bringing you to the accident scene, even when you've sorted. Because some of the things we experience, they are no more challenges, okay? So do not back up the wrong tree. Yeah, okay, is that it? I think we are good. Okay, thank you. Oh, okay, maybe one more, then we end.
From TikTok, is it wrong to marry against your parents' will in regard to tribe? Another one, what should be done to someone who marries a relative and happy living? Another one, can a widowed mother-in-law move and live with the couple in a case where the mother can't look after herself, like in cases of illness or poverty? The couple is rich and can afford to support her.
Let me begin with the last one. I'll try and be really brief because of time. A mother-in-law moving and living with the children because of poverty, and they are rich. Why can't they transfer some of that riches to the mother so that they can empower her wherever she is and they can get somebody to take care of her? Do you know how stressful it is when people are living with their mother-in-laws, they can't even breathe, and the mother-in-law will be expecting them to get children? Where are children coming from? And they can't even breathe. It's very uncomfortable, okay? So why can't they transfer that riches to make the home of the mother comfortable? That's what I did for my mother. I made sure she has a comfortable home, toilet, warm water, everything. So because I know she's aging, and when she will need, you can get somebody to take care of her, then you can visit. But if it's a critical illness where maybe she needs to travel for treatment, That's fine. But poverty, please transfer some of the riches there. Make it comfortable. Because again, there's a psychological aspect when somebody is in their familiar territory. When they're in their familiar place, there's also a psychological aspect. So if they are sick, maybe a sickness that is critical for a time, then when she gets stable, endeavor not to transplant people from where they are familiar with. Then the other one was, what was the first one? Or marrying against your parents' will when it comes to an issue of tribe. So this is the thing. Find out why your parents are opposed to the person you're going to marry. If truly they only say it's because of tribe, sometimes it may be because of some cultural practices. Gen Z, I know you are saying tribeless, leaderless, nationless, worthless. Wacha kujidanganya. Mwacha mila ni mtumwa. You will get to know people's cultures when there is death, there is naming, there is something that is when you get to know. Please let us appreciate each other's culture. So get to understand why are they opposed to that culture. Get to understand fully. You can even get to somebody else to talk to them. Okay? If really you think about it, you seek counsel from other people, and you feel whatever they are telling you does not hold, you may proceed. But sadly, sometimes I've seen people who proceed against their parents' wishes, and things crumble within a short time. And many of them say, my parents were right. What a young man cannot see on top of a tree, an old man can see, or a woman seated under a tree. Do not rubbish your parents that they are dinosaurs, they are old. Please, just listen. Why are they concerned? And marriage is not an emergency. You can postpone the wedding for 6 months, a year, to seek counsel from everywhere. And you know where there's a multitude of counselors. Seek counsel and get guidance from older people. That is critically important. Finally, just a last one. Somebody asked regarding mother wounds, is it okay for a man to get married to an older woman? I think I covered it in part, but this is what I want to say. There's a reason why somebody gets attracted to somebody who is not in the same generation. You find somebody is attracted to a person who is 12 years older. They did not even experience the same presidents. So, and we said many times it's because somebody is looking for a mother, is looking for a father. So ask, what is this that I'm looking for in an older woman? Especially because men are the heads of the home. Women will struggle submitting and respecting a younger man. Always I tell people, but I know there are marriages where the men are young and they are working very well. But I always tell people, look ahead. I was telling another couple that, where the man was 9 years younger. The man was 26, the lady was 35. I said, it's fine, but I want you to think about it in the next 15 years. The lady is 50, the man may want a child, because they were saying they are not ready for a child yet. Said when he wants a child, he's 41, you're 50. What's going to happen? They considered it, and they later came and said they have realized it can't work. So look at it long term and ask. And critically for me, I would want to evaluate the relationship of this man with the mother. Because I would think many times, not always, the man is looking for the mother. Especially where the lady is the one who is resourced and is the one who is taking care of the man, I would really be concerned. That happens. There are men who pack their whole stuff and they move into a woman's house. You do not do that as a man, okay? So you need to critically ask, why is it this way? Having said that, I talked about same generation within 5 years. I know marriages, the lady is older, the man is younger, and they were not trauma bonding. It was not because of a trauma, but because they love each other. And the marriages are very successful. But the fact that somebody is asking that question, it may just mean that there's something they need to take time and work on. Thank you so much. God bless you. Okay. What was it about the relative? Sorry.
What should be done to someone who marries a relative and they are living happily?
Oh, yeah. So, the reason as to why people don't marry relatives is because of the genetic conditions. There are genetic conditions that run in families. I'm increasingly getting worried because I'm meeting so many relatives here in this church. I'm just wondering whether I should tell my children not to marry kisses, because all kisses now are becoming my relative. I'm joking. Now, the thing is this, the reason why people don't marry relatives is because of genetic diseases that run in families. And also, we will talk about it more on Sabbath. There are generational patterns. You will find there are families that are given to addiction, families that are given to sexual immorality, okay? So you will find some of these patterns that run. If they are not diluted, they will finish the whole family, okay? So now that is the reason as to why. So now somebody has married a relative, maybe they don't know, and they are happy. Well, if now they are happy, who are we to say they are not happy? Maybe I would say that they may not need to, I don't know the extent of who that relative is. I hope it's not like the one we saw the other day, a brother and a sister. Here I'm assuming that it's a distant relative, maybe. They met, I know cases like that. They didn't know, they're already married, they have children. Then they start saying, my grandmother was a cousin of your grandmother, something like that. If that is the case, then by God's grace, in times of ignorance, the Lord winked in times of ignorance. So that is what maybe I would say. That it shouldn't just be the reason making people leave each other, especially when it's distant. I guess it must be distant. That's why they didn't get to know. Besides that, please, young people, Gen Z and Alpha, get to know your people. Get to know. Get to understand some of the names your ancestors were called. I've told my children, you meet anybody called Misati, Nyachae, Gesanda, disappear from that person. Don't marry people like that. Those are our names. Misati, Gesanda, Nyachae, Moseti, Mosoti. Those are our people. My mother told me the same. That's what my mother told me. That all those names, those are our people. And anybody called that name here, I dare you, come to me, you are my relative. So I have told my children those names, and from the father's side, there are also names. Don't marry people with those names, because those are our people. So maybe parents also help your children understand a bit of culture. I know there's a lot we may not know because of circumstances in this postmodern world, but get to know your people. And when you are marrying somebody, marriage is a community affair. Don't go getting married under covers, then you appear with somebody and two human beings. Let people know and find out, because you can save yourself a lot of issues and even genetic illnesses. May the Lord bless you.